Can we get started?
I want to.
Yes, thank you. Well, friends, good evening to all. It's been a long time since we've been in the White Clouds. The first thing we do is thank the White Clouds for hosting us, for the fact that you have the opportunity to come here, communicate with us. And we are with you, and let's start from the beginning. I see a lot of new faces. It's wonderful that you came to us alive. Today, we have a wonderful occasion to talk about very important things. First of all, if you do not know or do not fully know what we are doing, then I suggest you familiarize yourself with our resources. The first one is Valery Uvarov, a political scientist who has been researching the ancient knowledge of ancient civilizations, left by us for more than 30 years, and a lot of primary sources have been dug up at the moment. A lot of information was compared, a lot of expeditions to different countries were made, and we are now continuing to do these expeditions, but at a different level. Therefore, in order to learn more about what Valery is doing and what we are doing in the team, I have written out to you the website Valery Uvarov Point of the Russian Federation, which will transfer you to different areas of activity. And today, we are going to discuss with you one of the most fundamental directions concerning the pyramids in Tomsk. Not only in Tomsk, but in general pyramidology. The next site I want to introduce you to is the Caduceus of Eger-Tochka. This is a website that will tell you about what kind of technology is called Eger's Caduceus. Many of you who are already here have been using these so-called gadgets for a long time. Therefore, go ahead and find out what these gadgets can give a person in principle, not only in the field of health, but also in the field of spiritual development. This is the tool that made the gods gods. Therefore, we urge you to restore this knowledge from the bottom of your heart, apply it to yourself, and move along the path of spiritual development with us. The next site is called Gadgets of the Gods. We have already mentioned this. This is exactly the site that will tell you about what kind of gadgets the ancient civilizations of the gods used. It's not only Caduceus, it's also in souls, it's also a lot of things that we have to introduce into our lives with you. Therefore, go to this site and get acquainted with what the ancient priests and pharaohs used to communicate with the gods through the pyramids using these gadgets. The following site is the in-soul of the side point of the Russian Federation. This is a restored technology, just like the Caduceus of Horus. I restored this technology to Valeria, as you can guess. This is the same gadget that, thanks to Valery, we can also use with you in everyday life and increase our energy tone and stimulate our physical health. So be sure to go over the insoles of the sides of the point of the Russian Federation, read, order, use, and further, the Heritage of the Gods website. This is a website that will tell you about, or rather even show you, because there are lectures of our online course, which is called the Heritage of the Gods, already recorded in open access on it. This online course is based on the book that stands here in front of you. It briefly describes what has been happening on our planet over the past 20,000 years, and naturally, we encourage you to sign up for this course. Its cost is completely basic and technical, as we say, 1,500 rubles, and it already consists of 13 recorded lessons. There are several lectures in each lesson, and through this course, if you pass, you will understand that what we are experiencing now in our society, in our modernity, has echoes of previous events that took place 20,000 years ago. And, of course, those who do not have the Pyramid of the Heritage of the Gods book yet, we urge you to buy this book right now, because while a new edition is not planned, plans have changed. And so far, there are very few copies of these books left at the moment. Therefore, in light of the fact that we do not yet understand when a new edition of this book will be published, be sure to buy yourself while you still have the opportunity. Well, today we met with you in order, first of all, to tell you about the pyramid complex, to which we went with the group, from the 5th to the 10th of September. It was an unprecedented race. This opportunity turned up to us literally unexpectedly. Naturally, we jumped at it because we wanted to give you the same opportunity to visit this complex. Valery talked about how it was built and what it was built with. We had lectures every night. In the afternoon, we had practical classes inside the pyramid. Naturally, it was all individual. We even have people who have been with us in the pyramid. If you want to chat, get acquainted, come over. I hope you won't mind telling me your opinion. And of course, those who follow our Telegram channel. Be sure to subscribe to Verovka.Egger can be found in the Telegram channel. We did a lot of reports and publications about how we spent time there in general. Naturally, there are a lot of video materials. We have feedback, simply due to the fact that we were on the road for a whole month in September. It was not yet possible to mount and post it all for you. Therefore, we will do it in the near future. Well, in principle, I am ready to give the floor to Valery so that we can finally begin to study what this pyramid complex is, what makes it unique. And naturally, you can already guess that Valery was the main architect during the construction of this complex. Valery Uvarov, you have the floor.
I don't listen to applause. Joke hello again. Well, really, the event is unique in a certain sense. That's why. The main idea and photos of the phased construction of pyramids there in Tomsk you can find. Now I'm going to make it a little quieter for a second. In the book, there are photos there. Everything is there. But in the book, for certain reasons, I did not talk about the features of this complex, because those among you who are on our course have heard a little bit that the idea of its construction was connected with the desire to include our planet in a kind of, so far we will call it, a network of a space communication system.
С желанием включить нашу планету в некую, пока так назовем, сеть, систему космической связи.
Because the last attempt to include our planet and civilization in this interplanetary, intergalactic communication system was made on November 2nd, 1977th year.
Систему связи была предпринята 2 ноября 1977 года.
I have a little material about this event on the website when the expedition arrived here.
Сюда прибыла экспедиция.
Their task was to meet with representatives of the scientific world,
С представителями ученого мира.
those who represent the mind, honor, and conscience of our era, let's call it that. For several hours they communicated with people in one of the scientific towns, after which they made the appropriate conclusion that our civilization is not yet ready for such contact.
После чего ими был сделан соответствующий вывод о том, что наша цивилизация еще не готова к такому контакту.
So they planned, they investigated this issue.
Этот вопрос.
It was a very interesting event.
Интересное было событие.
This event, as I said, is described, but I want to expand it later in a separate book. And I think that we will make a movie based on this material. How curious was this very deep conversation, where they expressed their own opinion about what is happening with us. You will agree that it is worth a lot when they say right to your eyes, what are we stained with here?
Это дорогого стоит, когда вам прямо в глаза говорят, в чем мы тут попачканы.
Well, they're gone. It was the 77th year, and in the 11th year, we decided to meet them halfway. That is, if they came and did not want to. Then we decided, and why not actually go in that direction, especially since events are approaching, which I do not stop talking about. These events will take place approximately in 125, 130, 135 years. This will be a very serious drawing of the line and, perhaps, very painful for us. And we have one last chance. This is serious. This is very serious. Because let me remind you who is not in my lessons, who does not know about the course. A course dedicated to the history of the solar system over the past 20,000 years. And it is in this course that I tell you that over these 20,000 years, 3 attempts have been made to negotiate with Earthlings. 3. And every time people did not match, after which a big stone flew here, and a cross was put on it. And then it all started all over again. Then 10 or 12,000 years passed. Pay attention to the period is not long, but nevertheless sufficient. After that, again, as it was at one time with Gilgamesh, well, the person who is called so in the Sumerian epic is called. His name is Gilgamesh, or Gilgamesh is not the proper name of the person who is mentioned, and whom he embodies. This epic hero, his name was Noah. In fact, Noah was asked to do some work, since he was a respected person on earth at that time. Well, in general, nothing happened, about which there was a papyrus, which preserved information that, well, that people did not work out. Well, I'm sorry, you were warned. And the second stone arrived 13,679 years ago, which blew everything to hell, and in fact shifted the Earth's orbit for 5 extra days of flight. Guess what? Right. It was very scary. Then they gave me 12,000 years again. And the last blow is 1,256th year of our era. The stone flew straight into the mouth of the Santorini volcano, with all the ensuing consequences. He destroyed the pyramid complex in the Nile Valley. That's what blew it all up at that moment. Well, and we are now with you before the next event, which by their mass are all 3 previous ones combined. Because as you can see, we have something to work on. Therefore, we decided to try to create a complex in the 11th year. This complex in its structure fully resonantly corresponds to the complexes built in each or every highly developed civilization of the universe. Everyone has it. It is in this configuration. It is not accidental. And from the moment when the decision was made to build this complex, I practically did not talk about his abilities for a number of reasons, because I apologize for being blunt. But there are a lot of assholes nearby, and there are Mikhail Elisiv and so on, who immediately try to use it all for selfish purposes. Immediately begin to write everywhere that in general I'm doing some stupid things, that I'm a pedophile, and so on. That is, and I understand that I'm kind of going to survive all this bullshit, but I'm interested in your consciousness. There are very important points here that you are understandably unaware of. But it's happening. And here are people like Mikhail Elisiv. They are imprisoned. They exist in order for a different point of view to still restrain the development of our civilization for certain reasons. But we have formed a clear desire to try to jump out of this vicious circle. There was a coordination meeting because, well, let's face it. Although we, as our civilization, I am talking about it, are at a fairly low level of development, we are in a stage of transition. From the first stage of humanoid forms of development to the second. And we still have a long way to go, which is what I'm talking about in the course. And at this stage, it is necessary to take a number of decisive steps. First of all, it is the creation of a certain group of people. We're starting. You are coming to us. The one who was in the pyramid visited the pyramid. But I'm interested in children, and one of the projects that we called Cosmic Baby at first, although I don't like
Начало
these
космической
English
поездки,
names.
хотя я не люблю вот эти английские названия.
Well,
Ну,
in
дословно
fact,
как
it's a space
космический
child,
ребенок, как
whatever.
угодно.
There is
Есть
some
некое
knowledge of
знание,
how to
как
conceive children
правильно
correctly,
начинать детей.
so that
Вот
these
эти
children
дети
are
у вас
super talented,
были
because their weaknesses, they
сверхталантливые,
depend not only on the
потому что
genetics
их
of their parents.
слабые стороны, они зависят не только от генетики родителей.
These
Они
violations are
в
mainly
основном,
related to the fact that we,
эти нарушения
adults,
связаны с тем,
do not
что
understand
мы,
how the whole
люди
system
взрослые,
works.
не
We
понимаем,
do
как
not
работает
conceive children in
вся
time.
система, мы не вовремя зачинаем детей.
There are
Есть
certain
определенные
periods,
периоды. И
and
вот если
if
мы
we
все
do
сделаем
everything
корректно,
correctly, will our children be the ones
наши
with whom
дети
the outer space will
будут
talk?
теми, с кем внешний космос будет разговаривать.
With
С
you,
вами
he won't
говорить
talk,
не будет.
make no
Не
mistake.
обольщайтесь. С
Everything
вами
is
все
clear
понятно.
with
Вы со
you
мной
and with
тоже,
me
но
too. But I am
я веду
leading
вас
you
к
to
пониманию того,
understand
что
that despite the fact that we
несмотря
are
на то, что
cut
мы
off,
отрезаны,
despite the
несмотря
chatter
на
of Iron
болтовню там Ирины
Podzarev,
Подзоров,
all
всех
these
этих
crazy
сумасшедших
contacts,
политактеров,
I tell
я всем
everyone,
говорю,
direct
прямой
contact with
контакт с
earthlings is
землянами
prohibited.
запрещен.
He's
Его
gone.
нет.
That's it.
Все,
Absolutely not.
категорически нет.
There is a
Есть
small group
небольшая
of
группа
people
людей,
who are sort of
которые
associate
являются
members of
чем-то
the
вроде
galactic community.
ассоциированными членами галактического сообщества.
Got it? Right.
Поняли, да?
This
Это
is a
небольшая
small
группа,
group.
в общем,
In general, therefore, certain negotiations were
были
held when we were told,
проведены определенные
well, do what we
переговоры,
will not interfere,
когда нам
but we
было
will also
сказано, ну,
help.
делайте
Well,
что,
as they say, and
мешать
thank
не будем, но
God,
помогать
because
тоже.
the worst thing in our life is like the
Как говорится, и
Elysieves
слава
who are
Богу,
doing the devil
потому
knows
что
what
самое
there.
страшное в нашей
And
жизни,
in the 11th year
типа
construction
Елисея
it began with what the
Чёрт
man
знает, что
found.
И в 2011 году началось строительство. Началось оно с того, что нашел человек.
Who does not know
эту
this
ситуацию, я
situation?
коротко проговорю,
I will
просто
speak
нашел меня
briefly.
человек
Just a
из
man from
Томска.
Tomsk found me.
Он
He
местный
was a local businessman, as
бизнесмен
they
был,
say now.
сейчас говорят,
An
предприниматель,
entrepreneur who was very
которого
much
очень сильно
concerned about the
заботила
fate of
судьба
local students
местного
and school
студенчества,
children,
детей,
which
школ.
struck me.
Что меня поразило,
He
он говорит,
says,
можно ли что-нибудь
is it
такое
possible
создать,
to create
чтобы
something like this, so that we
у
have a
нас в
campus in
Томске
Tomsk with more than
кампус, там
200,000
200
students
тысяч
there?
студентов.
Something like this for
Что
them.
такое?
Well, it
Для
more
них.
than convinced me.
Меня это более чем убедило.
And we
И мы
started
начали
working.
работу.
So,
Итак,
the
комплекс,
complex, as I said at
как
the
я уже
very
сказал в самом
beginning,
начале,
it has a special
он
structure.
имеет особую структуру.
The place
Место
was
было
not
выбрано
chosen by chance.
не случайно.
It is
Оно
not the
не
best
самое
from the point
лучшее
of view of energy,
с точки
such a
зрения
general energy.
энергетики, такой общей энергетики.
And
Здесь
here it
важно
is
понимать,
important to
что
understand that those who
у тех,
begin to
кто
build
начинает строить
pyramids,
пирамиды,
there
есть
are,
как бы
as it
всегда два
were,
пути.
always
Два.
two ways. The
Первый
first
путь
way is when
это
we
когда
walk,
мы ходим,
as the
как
priests
и
walked
ходили в
in
древности
ancient times.
жрецы.
This is a
Это
special group
специальная
of
группа
specially
особого
trained
рода
people with
подготовленных
special
людей,
sensitivity.
обладающих особой чувствительностью.
Here
Вот
it is
надо
necessary to clearly
четко
understand
понимать,
how the
как
system
работает
works from the
система,
point of view or the
с
principle
точки
of
зрения
anthropomorphism.
принципа
When I
антропоподобия,
repeat,
когда,
we have some
повторю, у
energy
нас
channels in our
в
body.
организме есть некие
Each
энергоканалы,
channel, each acupuncture
каждый
point
канал,
is
каждая
connected to a
акупунктурная точка
specific
соединена с
organ.
определенным
And
органом,
then you click
и вот,
here,
например,
it will
тут
shoot
выступит
here,
вот здесь,
and accordingly,
и,
they are
соответственно,
somehow
энергии, они
connected to the
каким-то
energy.
образом связаны.
The hypothalamus
Гипоталамус,
pituitary system of the planet
система
Earth
планеты
is
Земля — это
Kayla's.
Кайлас,
Energy
от него
channels diverge
энергоканалы
from it
расходятся
everywhere
везде,
and at certain
и в
points.
определенных
There are
точках
temples
стоят
built for a
давно
long
построенные
time.
храмы,
It's like
это
needles
как
and so on.
иголки
And so it
контакт.
was
И
necessary
вот
to
нужно
choose
было
a
выбрать
special place.
специальное место.
We
Мы
chose the
выбирали место,
location
исходя из
based on the
того,
fact
что
that
на
there is a
глубине
giant
300
lake
метров
at a
под
depth
комплексом
of
находится
300 meters
гигантское
under the
озеро.
complex.
Оно огромное,
It
оно
is huge.
сопоставимо с
It is
Байкалом.
comparable to Lake Baikal.
Вот, тем
Here,
более, что
moreover,
если для
if
вас
this is
это
unknown
неизвестная
information for
информация,
you, I want to say
сразу
right
хочу
away
сказать, что
that one
одна
of the
из
features of planet
особенностей
Earth
планеты Земля состоит
is
в
that
том,
we
что
live
мы
on a
с вами
shell.
живем на скорлупе.
Inside the
Внутри
planet
планеты
Earth,
Земля,
in addition
помимо
to the
ядра и
core
так далее,
and so
там
on,
много
there are many
полостей,
cavities where
где
there is
находится
water.
вода.
Moreover,
Причем
the depth
глубина
of these
этих океанов
oceans
это
is the
океаны.
oceans. The
Глубина
depth of
океанов
the
от 3 до
oceans
5
is from
километров
3 to 5 kilometers.
под нами.
Below us. In other
То
words,
есть вот
this
это
is one of
одна
the
из причин,
reasons
почему
why the
падение
fall of
крупных
large
астероидов
asteroids
вызывало
caused
провалы и
dips and
появлялись
appeared.
вот
Continents disappeared as
сказали
Atlantis
материки, как
took and
Атлантида
sank
называли,
right.
затонула. Правильно?
Why
Почему
did it
затонула?
sink?
Потому что вот
Because
вода,
here is the
которая
water
была
that
под
was
кровлей, она
under the
вышла
crust. It
вместе с
came
лавой
out with
на
the
поверхность.
lava to the surface. Atlantis,
Атлантида, она
it
была
was
на
on very heavy rocks.
очень тяжелых породах.
Respectively, it sank,
Соответственно,
so
она
we live
затонула.
with you,
Вот.
although
И
on granite nice
мы с вами
rocks.
живем, хотя
But
и
we
на
are still still in the same risk zone.
Но все равно мы находимся в этой же зоне риска.
Accordingly, water is a medium, through which a signal can be transmitted over vast distances. That's how much water is a direct contract. That's how much. Now, if we live with you, for example, I live in St. Petersburg, my Neva flows into the Baltic Sea and the Baltic Ocean. Then, roughly speaking, I can get a person from St. Petersburg in New York without any problems. If I know the technology how to do it, returning to the complex, taking into account all these factors, you chose this place. And began construction, not of a random configuration of the complex, but on a special energy system. In other words, the idea was that with the help of technology, it is possible to break through the energy flow. But it's just to know how it's done, which, as a matter of fact, we did. And then a very interesting work began, and in the course of our meeting today, I will tell you and show you. Why? Because I would like to pass on pure knowledge to you. I will not be able to tell you everything for obvious reason. I think that we will have the opportunity, and we will talk gradually. Today, the first part is some kind of, then the second part, the third. It is important to me that you get involved in this process. On purpose, I wrote out a few words here. This is what was said at the time, during the conversation, and if you allow me, I'm literally going to run through my eyes right now. I'll tell you what in general and how it really is. So, it was about knowledge. That is, I repeat, my task is to convey to you some kind of knowledge that should do some work in you. But at the same time, knowledge is not a set of certain facts. This is a state that occurs as a special energy is filled. Yeah.
Interesting. We accept it.
Let's move on, because if you do everything right, you will understand how it is. And we have a lesson on the course. It is dedicated to reincarnation, where I tell a very interesting story about the Mayan priests. Here's having to do with this is stunningly perfect. And I would like you to go this way. When you go, you'll understand everything. So, this is a state that cannot be described in words. It's true. It is the beginning and the end. It is the source, and it is also an inspiring stimulus and impulse. This state is perfection itself, which is a part of a person. Always remember the principle of anthropomorphism. We are created in the image and likeness. And if He, the Creator, has conceived, He is now on the path of self-improvement. The person who entered the pyramid, I tell in my course, when everything is done correctly, and the person is included in the information flow. The first thing that happens to a person, I know what I'm talking about. A holistic understanding of the concept of the universe development immediately comes to you. Quite a bit. This is for you, I repeat again, not to spy on you with this nonsense. You see the concept. You have embraced it. You understand it this way. You think with the brains of the Creator, no matter how it sounds. Out of the ordinary. So, that is why this knowledge is a part of man, because you are his little self, and you begin to feel the beating of the organism of the whole Creator. Not galaxies, but the universe. It's then, when you go out, everything starts to disintegrate, but it's worth a lot to get into this state. And it is the same state that the world should lead to. This is a stream of special energy that you need to enter, become a part of it.
Это поток особой энергии, в который нужно войти, стать его частицей.
Only in this
Только в
state
этом
can one feel and know
состоянии
God's
можно
plan.
почувствовать и познать замысел Бога.
I want
Я
to
хочу
introduce you to this
ввести
state,
вас в это
and in it you will
состояние, и в
understand
нем
and
вы
realize what the
поймете и
pyramids are,
осознаете, что
and what their
такое
role
пирамиды
is in
и
the
какова их
evolution
роль
of the
в
consciousness of the
эволюции
universe.
сознания Вселенной.
You got
Уловили,
it,
да?
right. And so
вот
our
наш
course, The Legacy of the Gods,
курс
is about this, about
Наследие
everything.
богов — это вот про все.
Therefore,
Поэтому перед
before
тем,
we
как мы
move
перейдем
on
к
to the
комплексу,
complex,
хотелось бы еще
I
раз
would like to
сказать,
say
что
once again that the right
правильная
pyramid,
пирамида,
when
когда
everything
все
is done
сделано
according
по
to
науке,
science, is a powerful space
она
antenna.
является мощной космической антенной.
Second,
Второе.
the principle of
Выполненный в камне,
anthropomorphism, made in
моделью
stone as a model of the
энергетической
energy
структуры
structure of
человека и
man and the
Вселенной,
universe,
принцип
and the
антропоподобия,
energy
и
mechanism that uses
использующий
it to the
ее
universe.
Вселенной энергетический механизм.
This is
Это
not
вам
for you to build a
не
pyramid
из
out of
палочек
sticks
и
and
тряпочек
rags.
пирамиду выстраивать.
You
Вы
understand
понимаете
the absurdity of the situation when they made a
абсурдность
pyramid out of
ситуации,
4 tubes and
когда
say you will
сделали
have a
из
job.
4 трубочек пирамидку и говорят, будет вам работа.
Seriously.
Серьезно?
Are you
Вы это
serious?
серьезно?
That's
Вот
why we are
потому
below
мы
the
находимся
baseboard, that we
ниже
can't
плинтуса,
even understand,
что мы
cover
даже
simple things.
понять, охватить простых вещей не можем.
But the
Но
time has
время
come,
пришло, у нас
we
больше
don't
времени
have
нет.
any more time. Third,
Третье.
the pyramid
Пирамида
is a very
является
powerful generator of
очень
cosmic
мощным
energies of
генератором
different planes.
космических энергий разных планов.
Moreover,
Причем
this
это
generalizing formulation,
обобщающая формулировка.
it should
Следует
be
понимать,
understood
что для
that in order to
генерации
generate certain
определенных
energies,
энергий
pyramids are needed that
нужны
are built
пирамиды,
or configured to receive a special
построенные или
type of energy.
настроенные на прием особого типа энергии.
Why do
Почему в
pyramids
мире
have different
пирамиды имеют
configurations in the world?
разную конфигурацию?
Yes,
Да, они
they
вот
are
пирамиды,
pyramids,
но у
but
них
they have
разные
different
углы
angles of
наклона, у них
inclination. They have an
внешний
external
контур,
contour,
внутренний
an
контур,
internal
там всё
contour.
что-то такое
Everything
своё,
is different there.
разные места
Different places are
выбираются.
chosen. The
Пирамида
pyramid was tuned
настраивалась
either to a specific
либо на
person,
человека
or the pyramid
конкретного,
was tuned to the
либо же
carrier frequency of the
пирамида
cerebral
настраивалась
cortex.
на несущую частоту коры головного мозга.
You
У
all
вас
have a
у
brain.
всех
It is not only similar in the
мозг,
structure of the
он
universe.
не только подобен структуре Вселенной.
Remember,
Помните,
who in my
кто на
lesson
уроке у
knows
меня
that the ancient teaching
близко
has been
знает, что
preserved in an amazing
сохранилось
way
древнее
among the
учение
Indians of the South
удивительным
American
образом
tribe
у
Desna,
индейцев
which tells that the universe has
южноамериканского
the shape of a
племени
brain,
которые рассказывают
that
о
it
том,
also
что
has a two-chamber
Вселенная имеет
structure,
форму мозга.
and, crucially, there is a permanent
Что она
connection between a
также имеет
person of our
двухкамерное
hypothalamic
строение,
hypophyseal
и что
system and the
принципиально
center of the
важно,
universe.
между человеком, нашей гипоталамо-гипофизарной системой и центром Вселенной существует постоянно действующая связь.
In other
То есть
words,
вы
you are directly
напрямую
connected to the Creator.
соединены с Создателем.
Fuck you,
Нафиг
church.
вам церковь.
Do you catch where you
улавливаете?
were taken aside?
Куда вас увели в сторону?
You get it, don't
Улавливаете,
you?
да?
Accordingly, the
Соответственно,
pyramid, when you build it,
пирамида,
it
когда вы
increases your
строите
vibration.
её, она усиливает вашу вибрацию.
Your
Ваша
vibration,
вибрация,
it
она
has a certain
обладает
code or
определенным
something.
кодом, что ли.
There are
Двух
no two
одинаковых
identical
людей во
people in
всей
the entire
Вселенной нет.
universe. No,
Нет.
this
Вот
whole
эта вся
infinite universe,
бесконечная
it's really
Вселенная, она
infinite.
действительно бесконечная.
And at
И в
one
своё
time,
время, когда был
when the
задан
question
вопрос
was asked
о
about the
размерах
size of the
Вселенной,
universe, the answer sounded very
ответ
interesting.
прозвучал очень интересно,
And
и
they
сказали,
said that all
вот
you can
всё,
imagine
что вы
is an infinitesimal
можете себе
fraction of what it
представить,
really is.
это бесконечно малая толика того, что на самом деле она из себя представляет.
She
Значит,
says,
вы знаете
You know
о
less about the
Вселенной
universe than a child
меньше,
knows about the ocean,
чем
sitting by
ребенок
sitting on
об
the shore of
океане,
this ocean.
сидящий на берегу этого океана.
In other
Это
words, it is a
огромная
huge
структура.
structure absolutely. And since
вот,
you are a
коль
particle,
скоро вы
you have a
частица,
direct
у вас
channel
есть
of
прямой
interaction.
канал взаимодействия.
And this
И вот этот
channel needs
канал
to be
надо
put in
привести
order.
в порядок.
The pyramid
Пирамида
is an
является
amplifier that
усилителем,
connects you.
который соединяет вас.
And this
И вот
pyramid needs to be
такую
set
пирамиду
up.
нужно
You
настроить,
need to
нужно
create an
создать
appropriate
соответствующий
complex.
комплекс.
That is
Именно
why I
поэтому в
write in the
книге я
book
пишу,
that pyramid
что
structures, if we build everything correctly,
Пирамидальные
and the
структуры,
complex of
если мы все
pyramids in
построим
Tomsk
правильно,
is the first complex.
пирамид в Томске это первый комплекс,
We
мы
put it on
специально
the water
поставили
on
его на
purpose,
воду,
so that now
теперь
we can tie up all the
связать
others that have
все
appeared anywhere.
остальные где-либо появившиеся
Pyramids,
пирамиды
if
по
possible, into a
возможности
single
в
system.
единую систему.
So,
Так вот,
depending on the
в зависимости
energy
от
of the
энергетики
place,
места,
on other details,
от прочих деталей,
when we build a
Когда мы
complex, we have the
строим
following
комплекс,
opportunities.
у нас появляются следующие возможности.
Connection to the
Подключение
natural flows of
к
cosmic energies.
естественным потокам космических энергий.
But of
Но,
course, we don't
естественно,
connect to them directly.
Эти мы подключаемся к ним не
You
напрямую, вы
understand,
понимаете,
right?
да?
Because
Потому
the
что
direct
прямые
cosmic
космические
energies
энергии
will
вас
simply
просто
burn you.
сожгут.
These
Эти
energies
энергии должны
must be
быть
transformed
трансформированы
into a
в
range that is
диапазон,
perceived
который
by your brain,
воспринимается
your energy
вашим
system
мозгом,
at this level of
вашей
development.
энергосистемой на данном уровне развития.
And this
И это
applies to
касается
all
всех
humanoids,
гуманоидов,
all
всех
civilizations of our infinite
цивилизаций
universe.
нашей бесконечной Вселенной.
And
И
these
эти
same
же
connection
пирамиды,
pyramids make
подключение
it possible
позволяет
to organize the process of stimulating
процесс
evolutionary
стимуляции
processes in
эволюционных
humans
процессов
and in the
в человеке
biosphere.
и в биосфере.
Because in
Потому
part,
что
the energy that the pyramid
отчасти та
uses
энергия,
is the energy
которая
of the biota
пирамида
of the
задействует,
entire
это
surrounding
энергия
living world.
биоты, всего окружающего живого мира.
And the
И
pyramid
пирамида
allows you
позволяет
to
эту
transform
энергию
this
внутри
energy
себя
inside yourself into psi
трансформировать в
energy.
энергию пси.
But
И
transformation can
трансформация
only be accomplished in one
может
single
быть
way.
осуществлена только одним единственным способом.
There is
В
only
Вселенной
one being in the
существует только
universe that can transform
одно
energy into
существо,
psi
которое
energy.
может трансформировать энергию в энергию пси.
Who
Кто
is
это?
this? This is a
Это
man.
человек.
That is
Именно
why who is
поэтому
the most studied
самый
object in the universe?
изучаемый объект во Вселенной кто?
A man is
Человек.
exactly a man,
Именно человек.
because it
Потому что в нем
contains the
заключена
greatest secret
самая
in it.
великая
More.
тайна. В нем. Dальше.
Correction of
Коррекция и
synchronization of the Earth's energy
энергетической
structure
структуры
with the
Земли
energy structure.
с энергоструктурой
That is, man and Earth,
человека и
they
Земли.
need
Их
to be
надо
synchronized.
синхронизировать. Первая
The first
проблема.
problem, because
Потому что
synchronization,
Синхронизация.
what is
Что
it?
это такое?
What's the
В чем
problem?
проблема?
If someone has
кто-то не
not
слышал
heard about what bilateral
о том, что
and
такое
general bioenergetic asymmetry
Билатеральная
is,
и общая биоэнергетическая симметрия.
who knows what it
Кто
is?
знает, что это такое?
Raise your
Никто
hand. You don't
не
know.
знаете.
Well,
Ну,
he
он
was
к нему
reading a
встал.
book. He's smart.
Он умный.
What's the
В чем
point?
смысл?
What's
В
the
чем
problem?
проблема?
What
О
is
чем
no
вам
one telling you?
никто не говорит.
And these
А
are
это
the key
ключевые
things.
вещи.
You know
Вы
that in
знаете,
addition
что
to the
помимо
physical
физического
body,
тела, у
you
вас
have
есть
so-called
так
energy
называемые
bodies.
энергетические тела.
There is the first, the
Есть
second.
первое, второе,
I
я
don't
не
call
называю
it
это
astral.
астральное, там,
There's some kind of
ментальное,
mental
бла-бла-бла,
bullshit there.
фигня какая-то.
Let's keep
Давайте
it simple.
по-простому.
The
Первое,
first,
второе,
second,
третье, четвертое и так
third,
далее.
fourth, and so on.
Первое
The first
энергетическое тело.
energy body. This
Эта
matrix,
матрица,
it
она
contains the
содержит
first body, the matrix
первое
of the
тело,
vascular system.
матрицу сосудистой системы.
Do you understand?
Понимаете?
That
То
is,
есть,
when a
когда
person is
человек
born and
рождается
begins
и
to
начинает
develop,
развиваться,
the vascular system does
то
not take shape randomly.
сосудистая система, она приобретает форму не случайным образом.
It has
У
an
нее
energy
есть
skeleton,
энергетический
a framework,
скелет,
and
каркас,
everything
и
repeats
всё
along these channels.
повторяется вдоль этих вот каналов.
And when
И
you have
когда
grown
вы
up, the following
выросли,
happens.
происходит следующее.
Your
Ваша
vascular
сосудистая
system
система
carries biological
несет
water,
биологическую
nutrients.
воду, питательные вещества,
It's a hormonal
это
system.
гормональная система.
That
То есть
is,
вся
the whole
гормональная
hormonal
система
system is
там,
there.
все гормоны
All
там.
hormones are
Все
there.
блоки управления
All
там.
control units are there. But if
Но
the vessel
если
carries
сосуд
biological
несет
water,
биологическую
the liquid
воду,
is there
жидкость
with
со
all of
всеми,
them.
там больше
There are
300
more than
компонентов,
300 components.
и на
And
самом
in
деле
fact
больше,
more,
но
but
пока
so far they are
официально
officially
говорят
talking
о
about
таком
this
количестве.
amount.
Так вот,
So, the energy channel vibrates with a certain
энергетический
frequency.
он вибрирует с определенной частотой.
And it
И он
transmits a certain
передает
signal to the
на
blood.
кровь определенный сигнал.
That
Именно
is why
поэтому
those who deal with the
те,
hormonal
кто
system,
занимается
they are
гормональной системой,
surprised,
они
as in the
удивляются,
vessel,
как
as in the
в
blood.
сосуде, как в
These
крови
direct
вот эти
reverse processes
прямые
in one
обратные
direction,
процессы в
in the
одну и
other
другую
direction,
сторону
are
настолько
so
сложно
complexly
организованы,
organized that scientists have no
что у
answer.
ученых нет ответа.
Goryov more or less came to the answer that there really are some energy skeletons, and this energy skeleton is the second body.
Энергетический скелет — это второе тело.
It comes out, it's like you have it,
Оно как бы
right?
у вас есть, правильно?
Then it
Затем
comes
оно
out,
выходит,
it
оно
concentrates.
концентрируется.
First, in the
Сначала
first organ of the endocrine system, if we are talking about the first chakra, it has to do with the prostate in men and so on. Then, when this matrix is reached, then it goes in the other direction, as if into the cosmos, into the divine. And all this is connected to the first energy body of whom? The Creator. You understand, right? In other words, we get information from there. It passes through the chakra, transforms, and goes to your vascular system. But the whole problem is that over time, due to nervous stresses, radiation effects, and all kinds of negative factors, there is a displacement of energy channels relative to the physical structure. You understand, right? And now a signal is sent to your energy channels that needs to be done, but it does not reach the target bodies because there is a shift. It does not enter the vascular system. The hormonal system does not respond, does not react as it should. Here's the first example. I won't go into it, you understand everything. Therefore, synchronization, especially along the spine and along the brain, because the spine and the brain are intermediate. It is an antenna deployed into space, directly transmitting. And if you have asynchronization here, well, sorry, it doesn't work. Therefore, if all this is brought back to normal, this is where the most interesting thing begins. Question: which of the existing teachers told you this truth? Nobody. And this is a small fraction. There are a lot of such nuances there. We go further because, finishing this thought, when, as soon as you synchronized all this, your hormonal system immediately begins to work in a special way, and your mental structure, it begins to respond to those programs. In general, it begins to match. Let's do this. Now we will not go into details, and real transformations begin in you. So, pyramids have a positive stimulating effect on the immune system. In medicine, it is known that the immune system of a young person, when he was born, is an ideal state. And so long as she is in this state, we seem to have more or less everything in order in the body. But the ancient text leads to the idea that it turns out that the state of the immune system of a young healthy person is an initial state that can be developed and evolved to improve. But since you don't even think about it, that's why you don't use existing mechanisms for this. Accordingly, this is a change with the help of pyramids of the existing eco-environment. Those who have been at least once here, next to properly constructed pyramids with complexes, you will feel that there is some very special energy there. It's kind of high there. That's something that fills up. It's like you left the city for the forest. So you drive into the forest and think, my God, this is the air where you need to live. That's the same way there. Accordingly, it all depends on the energy of the place and so on. And most importantly, if we spread the complexes to all possible acupuncture points, well, the more, the better it is said. Then the restructuring of our civilization, the consciousness of civilization, will require only 15 to 20 years at most. And you will no longer know. That's why I said at the very beginning I'm interested in children. We need a new generation of children who will think in completely different categories. They will understand what you don't understand yet, and the cosmos will talk to them, because they are not dirty yet. That's what I want to achieve, so it's time to start. And so in the 11th year we started. Oh, you see, we chose this very place and started building pyramids.
пирамидки.
As you can see, the practical center of Russia. There's an interesting story there. About 15 years before we started building Investor Tomsk, he said, "You know, I remembered the story. We were traveling with my one companion in this place about 15 years ago. Intelligent, too, psychic. I looked at this particular place and said," he says, "You know, I see pyramids here. Well, I drove through. And here, please, everything appeared. So, we decided to build a new generation of pyramids. In other words, the pyramids, this complex, it is inherently not similar. All the pyramids are not similar to any pyramid that has been preserved on the planet Earth by different civilizations today. That is, I embodied all the principles there. In other words, it is necessary to clearly understand why the Mayan pyramids were built. Why are they like this? Why are Egyptian ones like this? Why did the Sumerians build stepped ziggurats? And they had them initially. The first stepped pyramids appeared on the mainland of Mu. And they were, you wouldn't believe it, metal, made of metal, and they worked like a camera lens. That is, they came in, they turned on the control panel, and these steps they went up. But this is the measure. That is, what the pyramid was set up for. It was the length of the spine of the person who entered there. That is, immediately she left, and in the upper part, there was such a fine-tuning lens. She also had several blocks when the hypothalamus, the pituitary system, was adjusted in a certain way. Accordingly, I am writing details about this in the book, and now it was necessary to build a pyramid, a complex, that includes all these wisdoms. We have built pyramids, for example, smaller than the pyramids in Egypt. But they work more efficiently than the pyramids in Egypt, because the pyramids in Egypt were built, in particular, the Yaz complex on this site for a certain reason. Firstly, it is a marker on the surface of the planet Earth, whose task is to show exactly to the future generation, when the precession cycle has been restored, that is, the internal clock of the Earth, which reports the rhythm to all living things on Earth, is a tuning fork.
Прецессионный цикл, то есть внутренние часы Земли, которые отсчитывают ритмику всему живому на Земле. Это камертон.
That's how we play with a tuning fork. We have a tonality. All living things have it too. Planet Earth is ours, our mother.
Наша мама.
Accordingly, we should be in the same state of interaction with her as a child with his mother. Mothers know you went to work, the child cried, you have anxiety. Or vice versa, the mother had an argument with the boss there, and the child began to panic. This is the connection, it exists. That's all we need to take into account. And so we decided to embody all this in this complex, but at the same time, with small sizes. We get a much more pronounced effect due to the fact that we fulfilled a number of conditions that could not be fulfilled. In the pyramids of Giza, there, the effect was achieved in two ways. The first place, energetically, which was chosen, it is dead, it is absolutely nothing. Therefore, the effect could only be obtained in two ways. First, due to the mass of the pyramid, 6.5 million tons were built. Imagine the central pyramid of 6.5 million tons. And then it was stuffed with technical devices. In particular, the Pyramid of Cheops. The Pyramid of Cheops is the only surviving pyramid that served as a center for space communications. Admittedly, it still performs this function, Because there is an energy source inside, it's hard to say when it will be extracted. Because for the first time I wrote about it a long time ago, but due to the fact that, thank God, Egyptologists are suckers, well, with all due respect, they are suckers, they don't understand what a pyramid is. And, thank God, respectively, the supporting authorities, too, they don't really understand what it's about. They did not climb there. They did not extract this technical device, which is described in ancient texts. But we, in turn, all those with whom I worked, I certainly was not alone, we have a small team here. I am just like to say I am the talking head of our friendly team. Here we actually realized how it all works. And here is this compact energy device inside the pyramid, right there in the upper third, in the ratio that I indicate in the book. If we build this pyramid now, just imagine, we built a peak, then from the peak to this room is only 17 meters. It is no coincidence that the entrance to the pyramid from below is in the same ratio, 17 meters. This is the ratio of the setting to the purity of law. Because you and I have the distance between the eardrums of a person, especially one who has perfect hearing, is 78 centimeters, divided by 4 frequency law, respectively, if we understand that in the pyramid. We need to hear a voice mentally inside telepathy, then we must observe this rule. There is all this in the pyramid, and this device, there is such a silver cube, made of a special metal. He has an internal energy source for 5,000 years, calculated literally for 30 to 40 years. The pyramid falls silent. That's it. Therefore, God will grant these 30 or 40 years. This device will not be touched, but if they touch it, then it is necessary to warn that it is better not to touch it. Let him stand and work through him. A very important work is carried out. We understood this device, we deployed it, this device, and put it under the pyramids that we began to build. Accordingly, the site was chosen. Here is the distance from these corner zones of 540 meters. Why 540? Because there are 2 main and very important parameters that you need to always remember. The first parameter is the low, the so-called natural frequency of your mother's Earth in the low frequency range. Because it's not just a tuning fork that gives you a certain rhythm to all living things, but it is also at this frequency that the mental impulse is carried out to any distance in the universe. We have pyramids built for what? Remember, as one of the functions of a total of basically 12 stimuli. But one of the stimuli is a place tool for interplanetary, intergalactic communication. That is, mentally you have to send some kind of impulse. And when one of the priests entered the pyramid, it was a whole epic. A person lay down alone in a sarcophagus. His body was positioned in such a way that the hypothalamus, the pituitary system, turned out to be at the focal point. A number of priests were either around, or they descended down into the lowest chamber 30 meters below the chamber. And there in this cell, they started singing, and the pyramid began to hum. It literally hummed like a low-frequency factory pipe. Accordingly, there was a generation of a piezoelectric beam, this field. And when, in general, the brain began to turn on, then this low frequency, it seemed to be on itself, like on a horse. I went into space there to throw out colossal distances in a fraction of a second, and you're there on Orion where you want me to go. So, this oscillation is equal to 51 oscillations in 54 minutes. Got it? Right. Now look, you and I have cells that emit a wave too. Right? So this wave has a length of 5 and 4 millimeters. Do you feel the connection?
взаимосвязь.
It's actually more interesting there, but
Там
that's
всё на
not
самом
what we're
деле
talking about
интереснее,
right
но мы
now.
сейчас не про это.
It was
Нам
important
важно
for
было
us to drive
вот
this
это
here.
сбить сюда.
Therefore,
Поэтому 540
540 meters.
вбили.
Driven in. Let's move on.
Дальше.
The Central
Центральная
Pyramid,
пирамида.
it has a very
Она
unusual
имеет
structure.
очень необычную структуру.
Here
Вот
in the
здесь на
light,
просвет
you can
видно,
see
что мы
that we
видим
see
раз,
1, 2,
два,
3,
три,
4 levels.
4 уровня.
Here we have
Мы
removed the
сняли.
skin. Roughly speaking, here we see the internal
Мы видим
structure.
внутреннюю структуру.
The internal
Внутренние
chambers of the
камеры,
resonators
резонаторы
also
имеют
have a
тоже
pyramidal shape.
пирамидальную форму.
In terms of
С точки зрения
proportions, they
пропорций,
correspond to
они
the pyramid
соответствуют
itself.
самой пирамиде.
They
Они
are in a
находятся во
certain
определенном
ratio.
соотношении.
Accordingly,
Соответственно,
each
каждая
chamber,
камера
as it were,
как бы
enhances the main
усиливает
pyramid.
основную пирамиду.
They are
Они
in
находятся в
resonance.
резонансе.
There are
Между
waveguides
камерами
between the
находятся
chambers,
волноводы,
and here in the
а
center,
вот
do
здесь
you
в
see
центре,
such
видите,
holes?
такие отверстия,
Special
куда
energy sources are
вставляются
inserted there.
специальные энергетические источники.
I'll show
Я
you
вам потом
later what it
покажу,
really
что
is.
это такое на самом деле.
In order
Для
to
того,
implement two
чтобы
main things,
реализовать две основных
we
вещи.
had
У
two
нас,
tasks,
было две
for
задачи,
which we
ради
did it.
чего мы это делали.
The
Первое
first
—
is
это
the
усиление
strengthening of the
поля
pyramid
пирамиды.
field, and then these
И затем
cameras were designed to
эти
transfer
камеры
information from the
предназначались
object
для
to the water.
переноса информации с объекта на воду.
What was
Что
such a
явилось
stimulating link? Why did
таким
we do it?
стимулирующим звеном? Для чего мы это
We
делали?
had
У
an
нас был в свое
experiment
время
many
много
years
лет
ago.
назад эксперимент.
We
Мы
conducted
проводили
this
этот
experiment in a
эксперимент
rather primitive
в
pyramid,
достаточно
but
примитивно
nevertheless
построенной
it worked
пирамиде, но
anyway.
тем не менее, она как бы там ни было работала,
We
мы
conducted
проводили
an experiment with
с
insulin,
инсулином,
which has
у
expired.
которого вышел срок годности.
We entered it
Давно.
into the pyramid a
Мы занесли
long
в
time
пирамиду,
ago,
после
after which,
чего, после
after
12
12
дней
days of
экспозиции,
exposure,
инсулин
insulin
полностью
completely restored its
восстановил
function, its activity.
свою функцию, свою активность.
At the same
При этом
time,
он
it
начал
began to have a
обладать
pronounced
выраженным
immunomodulatory effect.
иммуномодулирующим эффектом.
As you understand,
понимаете,
it is already worth a
уже
lot
дорогого
because
стоит,
insulin,
потому
it
что
plants the
инсулин,
immune system when
Он
it is used.
засаживает иммунную систему при его использовании.
But
Но
another experiment was
был
conducted,
проведен другой
about
эксперимент,
which we did not spread at
который мы
all,
вообще не
because for
распространяли,
obvious
потому что
reason.
по понятной причине.
And now there is no
И
point in
сейчас
spreading on
особенно
this
нет
topic
смысла
yet.
пока на эту тему распространяться.
If you place
Если
a
вот
very simple
здесь
device like
разместить
this here,
не
where there is
очень
insulin at the
несложное
bottom,
такое
an energy
устройство,
beam passes through
где
it,
внизу
and above
находится
it there is a
инсулин,
container
через него
with
проходит
water.
энергетический луч, а над ним находится емкость с водой.
Guess what will
Догадываетесь, что
happen?
будет?
Withdrawal
В
from
воде нет
insulin,
инсулина,
and
а
water
вода
works
это
like
работает как
insulin.
инсулин.
That is,
То есть вы
you take
принимаете
water without, and it works
воду
like
без, а она
insulin.
работает как инсулин.
Accordingly,
Соответственно,
we
мы
decided
решили
not only to
не
strengthen the
только усилить
pyramid,
пирамиду, но
but
и
also to
подготовить
prepare special places
специальные
where it would be
места,
possible
где
to engage
можно
in
было
this
бы
kind of
заниматься
energy
такого рода
informational transfer.
энергоинформационным переносом.
Here,
Вот
pay attention
обратите
to the
внимание
very
на саму
unusual
очень
structure
необычную
itself.
структуру.
These
Вот
are the
эти
chambers,
камеры,
these are the
вот
places
эти
of the
места,
cavity.
полости.
Here, I'll show
Здесь,
you
я
the
вам потом
photos
покажу
later,
фотографии,
there is water here.
здесь находится вода.
At this
Вот
level,
на этом
and at this
уровне и
level.
на этом уровне.
Water.
Вода.
Why water?
Зачем вода?
Water is
Вода
not only a
это
medium
не
that
только
allows you to
среда,
transform the energy
которая
flow.
позволяет трансформировать энергетический
This is where it is
поток. Это
fundamentally
принципиально
important.
важно. Вы
You can
можете
stir up
замутить
any
какое
strong
угодно
influence you
сильное
want,
воздействие.
and it
И
can
оно
be
может быть
100
100
times
раз
positive.
позитивным.
But if
Но
it is
если
higher,
оно
even I would say
выше,
so, not that the problem is that it is
не то,
above a
чтобы
certain
проблема в
level.
том, что оно выше определенного уровня.
See what the
Смотрите,
problem
в чем
is.
проблема.
Let's say an
Пирамида
unhealthy
находится,
person enters the
скажем так, нездоровый
pyramid,
человек.
he is sick.
Болен.
Moreover,
Тем более,
if
если
a
человек
person
тяжело
is
болен,
seriously ill,
то,
then of course the task
безусловно,
of the immune system
задача
is to
иммунной
keep
системы
this
в том,
situation
чтобы
in a more or less
удержать
stable
эту
person.
ситуацию в более или менее стабильном
That is,
человеке. То
yes,
есть,
the
да,
person is
человек
sick, but
болен,
he is
но он
alive.
жив.
Do you understand
в
what
чем
the
смысл?
point is?
И тут
And
же
immediately there is a
оказывается
powerful
на организм
positive effect on the
мощное
body.
позитивное
It's
воздействие.
positive,
Оно позитивное,
but it kind of
но
knocks
оно
the stool
выше-
out
оно как бы
from under the
вышибает
feet of the
стул
immune
из-под ног
system.
иммунной системы.
She was starting
Она
to
начинала
wobble,
шататься.
and what was her
И
task?
ее задача какая?
Damn, to
Блин,
keep what was.
удержать, что было.
That's what it
Вот
was
то,
its
что было,
ideal
это
for the
идеал
immune
для иммунной
system.
системы.
Because the
Потому что человек
person is
живой.
alive, and
И
she
она
begins
начинает
to
бороться
struggle, she begins to resist this strong, even positive, but strong influence. Here you need to negotiate with the immune system, and it is possible to agree only on one condition. If you transform the flow into a range perceived by the immune system, and this can be done only under one condition: water. Water transforms. Moreover, water is also a huge source of information. 50 tons of water. Who has not heard this information from me? It really is. The water tank contains all the information about any living organism that has ever existed. A flea, a cow louse, anyone. Since the appearance of the first living cells on Earth until today. And in all 50 tons of water, all the information is there. Accordingly, what needs to be done to this hard disk? You need to connect, and there will be information for you. The system is designed for this purpose. In other words, we will install special readers on the walls in certain areas. That is, when a person sits down in the center of the pyramid, these energy rays, respectively, pass directly through the hypohissar system and go out onto the water. And, as they say, ask questions. Got it, right. Here are the tricks. In addition, please note that a hole runs through the entire chamber. This is a different configuration, although this is the configuration of the first experimental pyramid that we started building in the 2006 year, and in the 2010 it was completed. But here we checked how it all works and repeated it. And there you see, this upper channel goes. Accordingly, these pyramids are the first level. The pyramid is worth paying attention to the duodecahedrons. A very important decision, that is, if we are with you on principle. See what the point is. When designing or directly creating a pyramid, it is divided into 7 energy levels. Just imagine, we are building a 7-stage pyramid. Accordingly, the steps of this pyramid should be in a certain ratio. But what's the idea? If you build a duodecahedron under this pyramid, the height of which will correspond to the rhythm of 2 specially selected steps, this duodecahedron cuts off the negative component of the Earth's energy flow. The Earth, no matter what place of power it is, always has a negative component, which, in fact, affects the immune system. You have come to the place of power, as they say, you have sat down, so to speak, in the reception position. Figushki to you. Figushki. Why? There is a component. You didn't take it into account, did you? You came to sunbathe, and the immune system says, no, call, she's not paying attention. I won't work. They didn't solve the issue, so they walk around there for something, but there is no effect. Here, why was all this done? We did it. And moreover, if you do so, you will not only cut off the negative flow. You, the man. In general, a person enters the pyramid. I'm going to show you into that very upper chamber. A voice will begin to sound in a person's head. The voice. Opanki. Here it is. Interesting. But always remember, we are now discussing the principles with you. You are the first to know about it. The first ones. But in order for you to hear it, you need to synchronize this bilateral asymmetry. You understand, right? That is, it's not like you came there with flowers and you will be happy. Not a fig like that. We'll have to work. But the main thing is to know what to work on and how to work. But you won't find this almost anywhere. Olya said that we shoveled a huge amount of material, but because they talk to the curators and say, guys, well, they say, well, in general, all the LSEVs will be yours, keep in mind. We're not going to help. And then take full responsibility for yourself. I say, all right, thank God you're not in the way, and that's good. Here they have such teeth for earthlings. They've grown up for everything, because some 15,000 years ago, we chased them around the galaxy like cats. Yes, your ancestors were very smart guys. They remember all the vindictive ones. The other is a completely different slice of the pyramid. Here you can see better how it works. Agree, there are no such pyramids in the world. We have specially built it so as to take into account all these factors, and the water, and these holes here. Pyramids with this structure have been preserved. I'll show you the photos. But the people did not understand, did not realize why it was done. And it was important for us to get all this. You see, there's a round channel going up there. And here it is very interesting. It is not shown here in this place, but a specific energy device is inserted in this tube, in this cone. And its function is very unusual. In one position, you become part of the cosmic energy flow. You are a link. Why? You have formed a thought image, you need to send an idea, you need to get an answer, or rather ask a question, so to speak. You turn the device over, you are in a chain, and your mental task is this, your question, he went into space, you are in a chain. You just realize an energy flow passes through the pyramid. We have created all conditions so that it does not dissipate. We concentrate it. Moreover, there are devices inside the pyramid that not only tune you into resonance with the rhythm of your 54 cells. We tune it to the rushing frequency of the earth, so that all this is carried out and make such a condition where you are blowing right here. Imagine the wind is blowing, you got up, and that's all that you send. It goes there. It's gone. Then this place turns over, and you become the center of the cosmic flow. The center. Think about it, the center of the cosmic flow of the universe. That's right. And now, as they say, they have taken off their hats and received information. She will fly to you. These things should all be taken into account. Where modern wooden fabric-covered pyramids don't have all these ideas. But I tell you all sorts of nonsense, after which people lose all desire to listen to these esotericists, because they are nonsense. If you listen like that for half your life, you'll say, you've wasted half your life. Because no, there is no effect, and it can't be. They don't catch up at all, they talk nonsense. I'm angry at them. You have no idea. I won't fight, but I'm angry. Let's move on. Here is the Ko-Kur Cambodia pyramid with 7 steps. But up there, here it is a hole. You see, right? That's where the hole goes. It has been preserved through and through. It is also interesting that this pyramid is clearly oriented to the modern North Pole. It was built after the Great Flood, clearly by vectors. And there, you see, there is also a hole there to the ground. That is, we close it, we open it, you see a hole everywhere on purpose. That is, it is clear that in some way this ancient knowledge was preserved. And that's what we need. Here is the Egyptian Agirvash. Pyramid construction was stopped. This is the first phase, see. They started with the fact that they also built an open channel going into the depth there, so that nothing would disperse this stream, going from the ground to the very top. We return further to the same structure. So here we have water. At the very bottom, I'm going to show you now, look, This pyramid is 1 floor, 2 floors, 3 floors. Got it, right. And here it is at the bottom. Now wait a second. The so-called, oh, the oracle camera. This is an octahedral pyramid. The octahedral pyramid plays a very important role in these technologies. If we are with you, we have conducted these experiments, including observations using radar installations. In other words, we are talking about what has been scientifically recorded, so this is that the ray will call it, as it was called in ancient Egypt. All right, we will use the same terms. It will be easier for us to understand later. We don't sleep. This is an energy flow. This is normal. It's in the flow. That is, a person already perceives information in a different way. So this ray is a pyramid. It generates a ray, especially due to the fact that when the pyramid body made of white quartz is quartz. This is an electric piezo, and when the walls vibrate, this field is generated. It already pricks, like a woolen cloth. And here this ray went up, so during solar and magnetic storms, it sometimes does not just oscillate up and down, it disappears. He just disappeared. The pyramid fell silent. But not in this case. What is meant is this. If this storm is solar, it just works for this part of the geoid, where the pyramid stands. If the pyramid is in another place, there is no such effect there. But in this case, the pyramid reacts like this. That is, this ray is noise at the pyramid. It fluctuates. It's up, down, up, down, up, down. He's unstable. And there is a difference of 400 or 600 meters there. That is a decent difference. So in order for this ray not to fluctuate, it is necessary to create an octahedral pyramid resonator. And that's why in Cambodia, in their temples, where outwardly this onion is so elongated, multi-level, it just looks like, well, an onion is like, well, such a topological invariant of a Christian dome. But when you go inside, you see that inside it is a multi-stage pyramid. It is either tetrahedral or octahedral. And why is it octagonal? As you can guess, in order for this ray that is generated to be stable, there is another very important nuance that people do not know about, respectively. You won't read about it anywhere, but all ancient complexes have it. The reason is precisely twofold. The oracle's camera. This name speaks for itself. Under this camera, you see, there they are in the stripes. Here is this object that is located, this energy source. It is 33 meters in diameter. 30 is 30 meters. Then we'll come back to this later. I'll show you how it's all interconnected. And in the center is a huge crystal. Here in the book it's all shown there. Here I didn't take it out. It's huge, and here's the whole system. It goes to a quartz crystal. And this quartz, accordingly, begins to generate a certain vibration that we need in the pyramid. We're coming back here again. Here we see this outer part, because when you go into the interior of the pyramid, you don't see what is happening here. And there are still huge cavities hidden inside. And when we go there in the interval, here we see such systems. This is the entrance to the upper chamber. You can see the chambers, the pyramid-shaped resonators, the channels going up. This is the pipe of the central chamber, where this device is located. There is a special device here. We turn the handle into it once. That is, you are in a chain, or once you are in the center of the flow of the universe. These are waveguides. These are photos that were taken during construction between these pyramidal resonators inside at each level. There are such transitions. They are also not random sizes. They have a shape in order not only to pass, but also to strengthen a certain wave. This is the place where you see this channel. It goes around the central chamber. There will be water here. It's leaking. What's the idea? From the first energy level, the water flows, stays there for a while, it is structured, and then merges into a nearby pool, where children can come for a swim. Naturally, none of the children, people will not take money. Just use this priceless gift. From the second level, the same goes to another pool. Why? You will remember the fairy tales of living dead water. That's why. And now ba-ba-bam. These are energy sources. Pay attention, there is a 7-level energy source, and it fits into a special box. This box is mirrored. Here they are installed in the floor. A number of boxes have these side chambers, but the central chamber does not have this floor. And this ray, which comes from under the ground, it passes into the oracle chamber, then passes the following, and it freely passes through all these sources. It is in a special way, as if somehow correctly expressed. No, it acquires certain vibrational characteristics. We tune to a certain frequency for both man and earth. And when you enter this stream, that is, your immune system, it's just that this stream has entered with pleasure. This system has already been closed, and here on top will be what we will use to transfer energy from the object to the water. The complex itself has this structure, a central pyramid, and then 2 more circles. In the future, all these pyramids they built. But when the upper ones are already, when we are already engaged in the landscape, we will connect all these pyramids with the help of a channel, and water will flow here. The pools will be located here in the intermediate places. They flow, their children can come, their adults can swim in the summer. But all these pyramids, they are not in a random place. The principle of the cross is involved here, because all ancient complexes are built on the principle of the cross. In order to enhance certain properties of the complex. That's where I showed the mirrors. Of course, they will have to re-reflect the flow going from the pyramid in different directions back to the central pyramid. Only the principle is shown here. But when the complex is finished, all these 4 faces will be buildings there with 4 floors. And this side, looking at the pyramid, will be made of glass with reflection, that is, mirrors. They will be translucent, but mirrors. The goal is clear, to repel the signal, thus to strengthen it. Here is the configuration. It is visible. In the corners, right here in the corners, there will also be pyramids. They are actually already there. Why will there be? They are located. This is when we made the drawing. There were 29 pyramids written there, and so on. Well, in general, here we have. Well, I'm not going to turn on the video yet. This is my video that just turns the pyramid. And in this complex, there is a central pyramid. Its structure, you have already understood. She is very unusual. The uppermost chamber is the chamber where the person entered, and we are literally interested there. Olya, when we received it today, I think Sergei Myakin called us today. Yes, today just Alechka too, we just decided, he called, and here we had experimental water in this chamber. He says, Valera. He called us, Olya says, I have something to say to you, sit on a chair, don't stand on your feet, it will fall. That is, this camera is water, it says it performs the role of a filter. It emits energy in a strictly defined range, like a filter. In other words, we invited Seryoga to literally perform in the near future. We'll make a movie with him. He has been researching everything related to the pyramids for a long time. I know him very well as a very reliable person. He discovered a number of phenomenal effects in the pyramid, which I have already told about somewhere, but I am not yet popularizing. Why? Because very serious opportunities are opening up, which can be used both for selfish purposes, unfortunately. and 4 positive ones, or vice versa, both 4 positive and 4 selfish ones. Accordingly, you need to be very careful with the whole thing. And now he will tell us about everything that he managed to encounter. So this is the central pyramid. The side pyramids, these are all side pyramids. They are hollow inside, but they all stand on the appropriate bases. The idea is that in the future, when everything is working, people will be able to enter there, gather to collectives. There are quite large areas, and engage in some spiritual practices. All these spiritual practices, as you can guess, will somehow strengthen this complex. But in order for it to work as a reception from a transmitting antenna, it was decided to create a complex in such a way that energy flows from the extreme pyramids to the central one. For this purpose, a special system of energy sources is being created. They are very big, they capture energy, they twist. From the squares of the extreme pyramid, 36 meters. These pyramids are 33 meters in diameter, here 30. That is, to decrease, respectively, it pumps more to less, and so on. In this way, we shift it. It goes to the central pyramid until we connect them with special waveguides, so that this effect does not occur. We are still building. We noticed from the experimental first video that when ordinary hard workers worked in the pyramid, they said, "Damn." Sometimes they were even scared. Especially the effect occurred when people working in the pyramid, something will fall or hit with a sledgehammer. The pyramid suddenly starts buzzing and they begin to sausage. Sometimes they ran out. They're just ordinary people. Some kind of devilry is going on. It's not a damn thing, but it's all right. Yes. Well, here we go again. Pay attention to how extensive the site on which the construction was carried out, that is, the pyramids themselves. I'm sorry. This is the central pyramid. So, in order for the pyramid to work, it means that we need to observe one more very important element with you. This is the flow that the pyramid generates, and it goes up. It should have a transition zone from our dimension to another. In other words, we have to set a certain frequency. And in order for all this to happen, it is necessary that there be such a quartz pyramidion at the top of the pyramid. This quartz pyramidion is 74 kilograms in weight. It was made to order in Brazil. It was delivered, and we installed it on top of the pyramid. Here it is. There is also a very important nuance here, which you should always remember. Quartz pyramidion is all great, but there is one but. During a solar and magnetic storm, a person who is in the pyramid may have glitches. Glitches. Therefore, it will be useful to you, it will not be useful, who knows. But during solar magnetic storms, the pyramid is not recommended to work or not. By the way, this was one of the main problems for the priests of Atlantis, who worked in their pyramid. They had problems on this ground. They could not figure it out in any way until the Orions came to them. Because Atlantis is a civilization that was supervised by the Orions, and actually, it's not really. It was like, as I say in my course, this is not a very successful project of the Orions. They stimulated them, and it was a whole team they were engaged in for a long time. In other words, here is the team that stimulated this civilization. It was located in our solar system. This is an expedition. Let's call it the Expeditionary Corps, so that it would be clearer to us. He was here for about 12,000 years. They worked here. And so the commander of this project, his name was Sek, may probably not be useful to you. But I just wonder what his name was. This Orion was called Sek, and he did not get the situation. So at the moment when it became obvious that the project did not take place, another asteroid fell 13,679 years ago and put an end to the project. So not only did the ears fail, but the Yantsov also failed. Here. Accordingly, when we built the pyramid, we had to create a special system, such a concentrator, where there would be a transformation of the flow with the help of water into a certain frequency range. And so we ordered, they made us a quartz crystal like this. It is the largest in the world today. It is the largest real quartz crystal in the world, because I was told that there in India, there is a huge crystal there. In the center of the wider Arabinda, it is glass, it is not quartz. Quartz, this is the largest in the world. It weighs 108 kilograms 54 by 2 as you can guess. It cost something to find such quartz and pull it out in this way. And it has a diameter of 42 centimeters. 4 plus 2 is 6 for a 6-level system, because in the system in a certain 6th, 7th chakra, as one is considered. Therefore, accordingly, as soon as we built, the guests came to us. It's not dust. These are guests. They are fixed. You see, all the floors are lined with special granite. The walls are white. And here on the walls you see these corridors. This is where they close later. They are currently closed, but special power devices will be installed here to read information from the water. Here you can still see the unfinished pyramid, but at least you have a feeling as if you have been there in the pyramid. For the first time, this object was discovered by the curators. See it. Here you see the construction site. Here we are building a duodecimal. There in the central part, there is a crystal source. Don't you see anything? Do you see anything unusual? Yellow. Yes, well, there I write in the book. Here he is lurking and watching. What are we doing there? There he is. Here, accordingly, in the book again, there is a complete alignment with all the cases. When we finished the construction of the power system itself, that is, the pyramid, I emphasize, we have the principle of the side at the top. It must be observed. The principle of duality. It is observed as follows. We are building physical pyramids, and we are building energy pyramids with you. In other words, all the vertices of the pyramid, all the pyramids are connected into one energy one, that is, Ba and K. K are the energy component. This is the physical component. The Bach principle is an above-ground and underground complex. Always remember this. If you do not comply with this principle, your pyramid will not work. In other words, this is all very serious science. And yes, of course, when they came and within a few minutes, they inserted GPS tags around our complex on the corner pyramids. A huge object, probably about 2 meters, 2.5 meters in diameter, hung over each pyramid over the corner for 2 minutes and then left. It was clear that we had succeeded. That is, the pyramid became visible. In other words, the complex has become visible energetically on the space map. And they accordingly, of course, for free, what? They came, pop, put labels on it. Now they are guided by it when moving from one space to another. And what is important, of course, through this complex, it is already possible to have a certain stimulating effect on the entire civilization, especially since there is water under the complex, and through water we can realize anything. That's accordingly, well, what else would I like to say? Look, these principles are all those preserved monuments where, gradually over time, it was possible to read information about the proportionation in a certain way, how it is done, due to which all this was set up. And the pyramids in particular are ancient Egyptian. They see the bulk had this configuration. That is, one camera is inside. We believe that this is the first level, the ground level. These particular pyramids were built to correct bilateral and general bioenergetic asymmetry. It is carried out in this place. Not on the next floor, not in the topmost cell, but in this place. The pyramid is the pyramid of Khafra, here it is. And actually, what we started our conversations with today is that in order to get on a really real working path of your spiritual,
выйти на действительно реальный рабочий путь вашего духовного.
Well, at least we will perceive the word spiritual at the most primitive level, because so far, for the most part, we perceive the word spiritual on a primitive level. We are not aware of what is behind all this. So at this stage, the first thing that you all absolutely lack is just the correction of bilateral and general bioenergetic asymmetry. Here at this stage, I'm going to tell you something else now, but this will be the very first stage. We will return to this complex later. I'm probably going to tell you something else interesting here, because there's a lot of information for you right now. Remember what I said at the very beginning. This is a condition. You need to get into a state and hold this. It's not the names that matter. Please note, we often meet people, we remember their eyes, we remember the curly energy, but we do not remember the name. And it doesn't matter. The main thing is to remember the person, his features. That's the point. This must also be done with what we call knowledge today. Someone, I know a lot of people. I have one friend who has a phenomenal memory. Ask him a question. Here I checked repeatedly. I say, listen, Mish, I'm interested in the events that happened there in such and such a year, in such and such a village. Where is the information? He will tell you the newspapers, books, page, on which line, and ideally. That is, like a computer. But analytical abilities are zero. For me, on the contrary, I don't remember where, but I remember what. And this is enough for me to draw the appropriate conclusion. Therefore, when the complex was built, it was built naturally as a private territory of the central pyramid. Then it was decided to build a complex, and another 525 hectares of land were bought around for the construction of the city of the beginning, such a beginning of the city for people. 8,000 people would live there according to the plan, and, accordingly, it was impossible to get into this complex inside. Now such an opportunity has appeared. How much have we got it? Well, let's see. So we conducted the first run. Of course, it was a complete revelation for people. Then, if you have the time and desire, you will tell us at least how you felt it all on yourself. But we may still have such an opportunity to conduct such an operation in December. But we will go further today. This is especially true for those who have already been in the pyramid. Because this time, I want to apply another very curious ancient technology. This technology. It was used for the last time on Earth somewhere probably almost, if not more than 20,000 years ago. And then gradually with the death of the mother to whom all this has gone into oblivion forgotten. What's the point? This is a special device that is in this pyramid. Let's get back to us now. Are you serious?
Серьезно?
We're going to fight.
Драться будем.
Here.
Вот.
In short,
Короче говоря,
a special
ставится в
system
центр
is placed in the
особое
center,
место,
in a
специальная
special place,
система.
and another system is
Внутри
placed
неё
inside
ставится
it.
еще одна система.
What's the
В чём
point?
смысл?
The provision of a special
Оказание
dedicated impact
специального
on a certain
выделенного
energy center.
воздействия на
Chakras.
определенный энергетический центр.
We have 7
Чакры.
chakras,
У нас с вами
and each
7
chakra
чакр.
has a zone
И
of
каждая чакра
responsibility.
имеет зону
For example, we take the
ответственности. Например, берем
third,
третью.
this chakra.
Вот эту чакру.
Everyone
Вот.
thinks that we have it
Слушай, она
here,
здесь, она
it is
находится
here.
здесь. У нас
We have a
здесь.
pancreas, a
Поджелудочная
stomach,
железа.
a liver here.
Желудок.
Right.
Печень. Правильно?
There are kidneys in the back.
Сзади почки.
This is
Так,
all
это
the
всё
responsibility of the
ответственность
third
третьей чакры.
chakra. So,
Значит,
if the
если
third
третья
chakra,
чакра,
the intensity of absorption of the
интенсивность
energy
поглощения
flow
энергопотока
falls,
падает,
the organs begin
органы
to
начинают
suffer.
страдать.
Whether you want it or not,
Хотите вы этого или не
there's
хотите,
not even a
только
need to
убить не
hit
надо.
something in the stomach.
Соответственно,
Accordingly,
для того, чтобы
in order
всё
for
это
all this
начало
to start
работать,
working, it is
необходимо
necessary to
оказать
influence this
воздействие
chakra
на эту
on the
чакру,
absorption
на
efficiency.
эффективность поглощения.
And special
И для
devices
этого
were made
делались
for this.
специальные устройства.
But the
Но
point of the
смысл
device
устройства в том,
is that
что
we will
мы
first diagnose
сначала
this time.
в этот раз будем проводить
I always do
диагностику. Я всегда
diagnostics,
провожу
but this time
диагностику, но в этот раз
especially.
особенно.
We
Проводим
carry out
диагностику.
diagnostics,
Смотрим, какой
look
орган
at which organ
как
is
бы не
not
в норме.
normal, which organ
На
needs
какой
to be
орган нужно в
affected
первую
first of all.
очередь оказать воздействие.
Then in this
Затем,
system, which has a
вот в этой
special flow like
системе,
this, a
обладающей
person is put
особым
down,
таким вот
there
потоком,
should be a corresponding sensitivity.
человека кладут,
Well, I've been doing this for how
должна
many
быть
years?
соответствующая
That is,
и
well,
чувствительность.
I look at where the
Ну,
chakra
я
is in a
вот сколько лет
person's
этим
first
занимаюсь, то
chakra,
есть,
the
ну,
second
я смотрю, где
one.
находится
We
чакра.
put
У
certain
человека
points
первая
there,
чакра,
and
вторая,
then
там,
7 special
ставим
devices
определенные
are
точки.
built that
А
stimulate these
затем
chakras. The direct
выстраивается
flow
7
is
специальных
transformed,
устройств,
and it goes straight to the
которые
stimulating chakra.
стимулируют эти чакры. Прямо поток трансформируется, и он идет прямо в чакру, стимулирующую.
One of the systems is larger, and we begin to have a
Она
collective
большего размера, и мы
impact
начинаем
on a
оказывать
particular
воздействие
center.
как бы
Thus,
собирательно на
we affect
конкретный
not
центр.
only the absorption efficiency, but
Таким
also
образом,
the
мы
fact
воздействуем
that the
не
chakra
только на
begins to
эффективность
work.
поглощения, на то, что чакра начинает работать.
This is what is
Вот
called
это и есть
activation.
то, что называется
Do you understand?
активизация, понимаете?
This is not what
Это
the
не то, что вам там
esotericists tell
рассказывают
you there.
эзотерики. Мы
We're
сейчас там
going to
подышим,
take a breath and activate it. Forget it, it's chatter. That's not how it's done. These are special systems where, first of all, we affect all the chakras at once, but one chakra must be allocated in a special way. In the main flow in the pyramid, but the flow is transformed in a certain range.
Поток при этом трансформирован в определенном диапазоне.
That's it. It doesn't happen otherwise.
Иначе не бывает.
Why?
Зачем?
This was
Это
done in
делалось
order
для
to
того, чтобы
prepare a person
подготовить
for work in the
человека
pyramid.
к работе в пирамиде.
Man, I remind you, is
Напоминаю.
created in the image and
Создан
likeness.
по образу и подобию,
Remember,
помните, да?
right. Therefore, never a
Поэтому
single electronic device, not a single superpuffed radio antenna, there will reach
никогда
where a person will reach.
ни одно электронное устройство, ни одна там сверхраспупыренная антенна радио не достанет туда, куда достанет человек.
Therefore, in a
Поэтому в
properly
правильно
constructed
построенной
pyramid,
пирамиде
the central
центральным
processor is a
процессором
person.
является человек.
But we have to
Но мы
prepare
должны
him
его
in such a
подготовить
way
таким
that after
образом,
correction,
что
he is
он
not only able to accept and realize,
после
but
коррекции
also to refute.
не
Send
только
a
в
stream,
состоянии принять и осознать, но и переотразить, отправить потом.
and at the same time,
И при
what
этом,
is
что
important,
важно,
the bonus for
бонусом
this is,
за это является,
what
как
do
вы
you
думаете,
think?
что?
That's right. You
Правильно.
just get
Вам
paid
просто
for
на
free.
халяву отваливают.
All right,
Ну, ладно,
take it.
бери.
And the idea
А
is to
идея как
create
раз в
all
том,
these
чтобы
nuances
создать
inside you,
внутри вас,
synchronize them.
синхронизировать эти нюансы.
And that's when
И
we
вот
get the
тогда-то
effect.
мы и получаем
And
эффект.
finally,
И последнее.
what's the
А в
point of just
чём
chatting?
смысл? Просто поболтать?
It's not
Да
about
не в
talking,
болтовне
believe me.
дело, поверьте мне.
If the question
Если
was
бы
simply
вопрос
how to
стоял
talk on the
просто как
phone,
поговорить по телефону,
then we will
то
not
у нас
earn
от
anything
этого
from this
телефона
phone
ничего, кроме
except
рака
brain
мозгов
cancer
не заработаешь,
or a
плохого
bad
настроения
mood
при
with
плохих
bad
новостях.
news. It was different for
У
them.
них всё было
The
иначе.
pyramid
Пирамида
was built
строилась для
for a
другой
different
цели.
purpose.
То
That
есть в
is,
тот
at the
момент, когда
moment when what it
происходит то,
was
ради
built
чего
for
оно строилось,
happens,
у вас
you have a
возникает
complete
полное
feeling
другое
like this.
ощущение. Вы
You see that
видите,
you not
что вы
only
не
went
только
out
куда-то
somewhere,
вышли, куда-то
got
попали.
somewhere, you
У вас
turn on this
включается вот
conceptually,
это
you know.
концептуально, вы знаете.
So,
Так
when
вот,
this
когда это
happened,
произошло,
and you
и
came
вы
back,
вернулись
at
обратно,
that moment, your
в этот
hormonal
момент
system
ваша
makes a
гормональная
chick
система делает
and moves on to the next stage
и
of its
переходит на
development.
следующий этап своего развития.
Here it is.
Вот оно.
That's what it was
Вот
done
оно
for,
ради чего делалось.
not for the
Не ради
sake
того,
of
чтобы
chatting with
поболтать
some
с
sack.
каким-нибудь саком.
Forget it.
Забудьте,
It's
это
interesting,
интересно,
useful,
полезно,
but a
но
refund?
возврат
And that's when a
И вот
person
тогда
became the one who
человек
was
становился
called
тем, кого
twice born.
называли дважды рожденный.
And now think
А
of
теперь
Manly Hall,
вспомните
Palmer,
Manly
Main
Hall.
Hall.
Palmer, Manly Hall.
In his book,
В
he
своей книге я
described
писал, что
that
он
he had
нашел
found an
древнеегипетский
ancient
текст,
Egyptian
который говорил о
text
том, что в
that
пирамиде
said that an
Хеопса
ancient
живет
great
древний
initiate lives in the
великий
pyramid of
посвященный,
Cheops,
говорить
with
с
whom
которым
only a
может только
twice-born person
дважды
can speak.
рожденный.
Any questions?
Вопросы есть?
I'm done.
Я закончил.
Thank you very much. Everything is always very interesting. And I want to please those who will be with us during this wonderful period in December. You will have such an opportunity to try to approach this twice-born state. And indeed, we are now forming a very interesting group of people in the current period of time who will go this way. We already have the first group. Here is Tatiana. Marina has also come. Here is Irina. All these people were with us in the pyramids. If you want, chat, get acquainted. I hope that you will not be stingy to share your impressions. Therefore, what I recommend, please subscribe to the Telegram channel of Padubits Egor Valery Uvarov. You can find right in the search, in order to simply track the moment when we start organizing the group. I repeat once again that we are currently working on the program, working out the dates, and what exactly we will do, how it will look organizationally. If you are interested to see how our expedition of the Valery Uvarov Priestly University bus has already passed in September, then again in our Telegram channel you can find already published reports. We do it all every day.
Sound.
Especially for you, and
Plus sound is sound.
we really hope that it will be interesting for you to reveal yourself, naturally improve your health, as Valerie said, and try to get closer to the sphere. And all this is possible only thanks to the pyramids. We repeat once again that you can buy the pyramid book Heritage of the Gods here in White Clouds, take it to the checkout, pay, then return to subscribe from Valerie. I repeat once again that while the next edition is postponed, so you have the last opportunity to sell out the last copies. There are really few of them left, so if you have time, then you will benefit. But today,
Wait another minute, if you want 15 minutes at most. Who is interested? I'll show you now a new movie we shot. So we made it, well, maybe it will allow us here. Moreover, the film is very good. It is dedicated to the knowledge of God. Here. So I dedicated it to Valia.
thank you.
Will you watch?
Of course.
Well, look, come on. Here it is. For everyone inhabiting our universe, God remains invisible.
Бог остается невидимкой.
Therefore, no one knows exactly who God is.
Точно не знает никто.
Learning about the world and ourselves, the humanity inhabiting our universe, will gradually approach the solution.
Постепенно приближаться к разгадке.
But everything is arranged in such a way that, moving towards the horizon, we will constantly notice that the horizon is moving forward. Therefore, the meaning of being will always remain the knowledge of the unknown.
Познание непознанного.
In our universe, there are two points of view on the nature of God, the dominant of which is the following. Someone with both male and female principles, who managed to embody all the laws of time and space, created billions of his own projections according to a single genetic code.
Кто сумел воплотить в себе все законы времени и пространства, создал мириады собственных проекций по единому с собой генетическому коду.
All projections created by God do not embody everything without the laws of time and space. In the process of evolution of forms, unfolding in accordance with the genetic program of the Creator, projections live in a particular time and space for a certain period of time. Each of the projections of each person carries several levels of energy bodies, and all of these levels are directly related to the Creator. We are His eyes, we are His cells. The Creator observes the world through us, cognizing the one who is beyond time and space has neither beginning nor end. Having created the universe, the Creator thus entered the next phase of His evolutionary development. The Creator will be in this phase for as long as He needs in order to move to a higher stage of evolutionary development, through self-knowledge and self-improvement. For such a transition, the Creator will have to comprehend, master, and embody patterns of an even higher order. The mechanism of cognition through self-knowledge and self-improvement unfold to the subsequent scheme. The Creator within Himself, in His womb, creates a certain number of His own projections, which begin to develop according to the program provided by the Creator. Going through various evolutionary stages during many incarnations, each projection gains knowledge, experience, and increases its energy potential. The Creator Himself, moving His projections from one time to another, different historical epochs from one space to another, observes the world through these projections, thus knowing Himself, and the one in whose bosom He creates and develops Himself.
Познавая таким образом себя и того, в чьем лоне творит и развивается сам.
When, after going through the long and thorny paths of evolution, the projections created by God reach the apogee of their development, the potential of the Creator Himself will increase accordingly by a certain number of times, and the Creator will enter a state that precedes the transition to the next level of His development.
Переход на следующий уровень своего развития.
Forming the basic worldview position, this knowledge, once transmitted to humanity, was designed to draw people's attention to the fact that life given to man by God is an invaluable gift and the highest responsibility. Human consciousness becomes cosmic from the moment when a person realizes that through his own creativity, the Creator Himself is perfected.
Человек осознает, что через его собственное творчество совершенствуется сам Создатель.
Consequently, man creates not only his life, but also, to some extent, the future of the universe. Cosmic ethics begins with the realization that God looks at us through the people around us, regardless of race, skin color, and religion.
Независимо от расовой принадлежности, цвета кожи и вероисповедания, на нас смотрит Бог.
Therefore, before you take any step or make a decision on which someone's life may depend, you need to remember that God is watching us through people.
Нужно вспомнить, что через людей нас наблюдает Бог.
When we do something for another person, we indirectly do it for the Creator.
Делаем это для Создателя.
Speaking about the meaning of life, it must be borne in mind that through human creativity, the development of individual and collective consciousness through the sphere is perfected by the Creator Himself. Therefore, the meaning of life consists in cognition, self-knowledge, and self-improvement for the benefit of humanity, and therefore, for the benefit of the Creator. Turning to God, a person turns to the one who created man and the universe with all that God inhabits it, created all people in his image and likeness. Therefore, all humanoids inhabiting our universe are similar to each other, with the exception of minor deviations related to living conditions and atmospheric composition on different planets. Anthropologically, we are all the same, whereas those living in other universes are not like us, because they have a different genetic code, a different creator. The program written in the human genetic code is a path once traversed or to some extent planned by the one who created our universe. Therefore, everything should develop naturally, without harming the evolution of the individual's consciousness. Representatives of highly developed extraterrestrial civilizations visiting Earth do not invade the life of Earthlings, realizing that interference, life, and creativity of a person or of all mankind is interference with the Creator's creativity. The aliens are well aware that there are no two identical people in our universe. Each person is one of the facets of the Creator's projection, going through his own path, different from others, through many incarnations. A person, having reached the peak of his development, may create a new, unlike anything else universe. And any unreasonable intrusion into a person's creativity can negatively affect his progress along the evolutionary path. The ancients did not understand the deep meaning of the knowledge transmitted once, and blood was shed. Irresponsible attitude to human life has deformed the very basis of moral and ethical principles. The current situation has caused the beginning of a gradual degradation of our civilization. All of today's problems of humanity originate from those times. When looking at the world and themselves through the prism of this ancient knowledge, people have the opportunity, having revised the basis of relationships with each other, and therefore with God, to stop the degradation process, and form the prerequisites for future ascent. Any knowledge is not only good, but also a responsibility. What will the world be like? Who and what the knowledge of God will serve in the present and the future depends on people. This ancient knowledge gives the key to understanding that we are connected with the whole world around us, and with each other by an invisible thread. Modern humanity mistakenly believes that the level of development of civilization is determined by achievements in science or technology. The time is coming when people will understand that the true indicator of development is the level of knowledge of the Creator. This is the most important aspect, about which the modern school does not give a person any idea, so a person deprived of this knowledge, not realizing his close connection with the world around him, is primitive. He does not realize at all, and cannot realize the meaning of the ethical principle, this fundamental natural phenomenon, outside of which normal correct development is simply impossible. The true achievement of civilization is not in the knowledge of how to build a laser installation or an aircraft. The main thing is the factor of human relations formed on the basis of knowledge about the Creator. Someday, after going a long way, we will be able to create universes. In the meantime, we must realize that before becoming a god, a person must become a man. I don't know. Yeah.
Yes, sort out the books. In general, thank you very much for the film. By the way, this movie is posted on our YouTube channel, on Zen. Be sure to subscribe. Please find us using the search words of Valery Uvarov and Egger. And watch what we do. By the way, we conduct Sunday broadcasts, where we answer questions on the tracks of our online course. Every time you watch lectures, you have questions and we answer them every Sunday at 12 o'clock. And our next lecture here in the White Clouds will take place on November 10th at 1900. In the same way, we are waiting for you with your friends, relatives, children and sisters, brothers, moms, dads, and have a good evening. Thank you very much. Disassemble the books, buy them, and approach Valery.
Thank you.
Спасибо.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Спасибо.